Because I wear oversized, colourful tops, I dress like their nan. So if you want to work here, slide down the pole.
Yeah. You were too scared to park your car in the car park because it was so shit.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
Welcome to episode 11, part 2 of the podcast. Lloyd didn't know that I was going to do the intro here, but I thought I'd do it because I fancied it.
Oh, I feel that's a bit
Yeah, there you
weird
go.
doing
Something funny that we were just talking about whilst between episodes was before part 1. It's so funny. Lloyd said, "Oh, I think today's going to be a shorter episode. Normally they're about 30 minutes, and then we just looked 54 minutes. That one.
Yeah, that was a long way. If you're here for part 2, hats off to you because you had to get through some weird and wonderful conversations.
That was
there.
odd.
I like how we finished on some really valuable business insights there that I think will be valuable for people. But they had to get through the strange conversations to get there. We rewarded them for sticking with us.
Yeah.
So just think, guys, if you ever think in this part 2 of episode 11 that you're going to stop listening, you won't get rewarded at the end.
So they could just skip to the end.
Yeah. Well, don't do that either, because other reasons.
So we're carrying on talking about people, but different parts of people.
Ooh. No.
So what are we talking about, Lloyd?
Well, first of all, we're going to be talking about first impressions.
This is good.
I find this really interesting because it's business-wise and outside of business. First impressions are really interesting to look at. But in business, I do think people really do, and when I say people, I mean me too. I think it's hard not to. You make judgments of people when you first meet them. Sometimes they're completely right, sometimes they're completely wrong, and they can be anywhere in the middle. Dan's giggling.
Sorry,
I'm
I've just
wondering
thought
why.
of a story.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you. But
Okay. Do you
mind if I tell the story?
Tell the story.
This isn't planned or anything. I just thought of.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you used to go to networking events and everyone thought that we were doing really well, but you were too scared to park your car in the car park because it was so shit, and you thought people would think you're shit?
Well, do you know what? I still have this. So I guess
you've got a nice car now, though.
This is less first impressions. Yeah, but I don't overly want a nice car.
Yeah.
So less first impression. Well, it could be first impression. More just judgments that we make on each other. So
Lloyd didn't want to go to networking events.
I'm really not bothered about cars. Yeah. I'd quite I'd quite happily drive around like a beaten up old car, and I think I'm going to be like that forever. But when I was driving
a beaten up old car,
I was worried that if people saw me parking up in it,
they wouldn't think you were successful.
Yeah, they'd think that obviously his business is failing. He can't even afford a good car, which is partly true. No, but I do. I literally used to park around the corner because I thought if people make that judgment, it's kind of like you're starting out a relationship from a negative starting point.
It's because it's just the thing. People do judge based on things like that influence their if you went to a networking event and someone stood up and said business is thriving, I mean going through the roof, can't even make these products quick enough because it's just we're growing so quickly, and then you look outside and they're driving up a beaten old banger around in that, you would think even though you shouldn't judge based on the car someone drives, it's just,
and I suppose it's because the majority, so I don't give a shit about cars and drive around a really old car. But I think because the majority of people, if they could drive a nicer car, if they could afford it, they would. I guess you make that judgment, 90% of people, if they
could, then they
would
would
have a successful business, they would buy a nicer car. So, and that's logical, I guess, isn't it? It's logical to make that assumption.
What other things, just thinking about this now, what other things do you think, in general, people judge what they think of you, like how successful you are, or how good you are, or how do you think?
I still think the way you dress.
Okay.
I think people still make judgments on that. I think also your level of confidence. I think that's
a good point, actually.
Even if you've got a really successful business, I feel like if people aren't confident in social situations, you make a judgment, I feel, that they're not
confident,
as successful.
Yeah, which is weird because you have introverts and extroverts.
Because also there are people who are hugely confident that their businesses aren't doing very well. So that's a strange one. But I do think I've noticed that in myself. If I'm meeting people, if someone doesn't feel confident talking about their business, you kind of think maybe it's not doing very well.
So how do you have a good first impression? How do you if you were giving your son Leo advice on, Daddy, I want to have a good first impression to people. Speak to me like I'm Leo.
Well, he would have already run off and forgotten what he'd asked because he heard a noise in the garden.
Superman!
I heard a bird. Okay. Well, interesting you asked that question because I feel like it's weird. I feel like you shouldn't try and make a good first impression. Because you should just try and be yourself.
Spit on someone when you meet them.
No. Of course you shouldn't be nasty or horrible. But it's hard because I feel like we shouldn't have to try and make good first impressions.
Just be authentic. Is that what you're going to say?
Be authentic, be yourself. But also, I know that it has an effect on relationships and when you first meet people. So it's hard to say that. Because I feel like there's two things in our kind of businessy world that I think might have a negative thingy on us.
Go on.
Not
you are so crap at podcasting.
No, but I think
thingy over here.
so. We swear in our podcasts, and I do think
not that much though.
No, not fucking much. But
you're so quirky.
So quirky and cool.
Yeah.
No, but I do think there's still a portion of society that doesn't like swearing.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
So that impression of us will put them off. And also I think the way we dress, probably mainly me.
I think we both dress very informally, don't we?
Casually, and I think there's still, again, a portion of people in the business world that would very much judge that.
Socks and sandals?
Yeah, Dan's got socks and sandals, and I've just got my normal ridiculous clothes on. My friends say that because I wear oversized, colourful tops, I dress like their nan. Which is, I mean, the amount that Dan and Lauren are laughing at that makes me think that's true.
That is brilliant.
But yeah, so I do think there's things that we do that actually put us in a negative situation when making first impressions. But I also...
So why don't we stop doing that then? Why don't we wear suits and not swear?
Well, I think, because if you think...
Because swearing makes you cool, actually. Is that
yeah, because it makes us cool. I used to wear suits. I used to park my car around the corner when we were more desperate to win business and make a good impression on people. I think that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Like, when we really needed to win business, because
we still need to win business. I'm the person. We're not like made it, mate.
No. But it's a different stage.
We don't need to win business anymore. Yes, we do, Lloyd. I need to hit my numbers.
Do. I mean, the business will literally close down in a few months if we don't. But no, it goes from a need to a want. So we needed to win a client when we didn't have any. Yeah. Because otherwise we wouldn't pay our bills. Yeah. Now, when you get to a certain level, you want to have more clients because you want to grow.
You still need...
But you need a certain amount, but I'm confident we can get that and swear and not wear suits and not park my car around the corner. You see what I mean? Now we're at that level. I think that's the honest thing of it. I've only felt comfortable completely being myself when I don't think it's going to mean the business is going to shut down. Yeah.
I think another thing I found in terms of making a good first impression is the whole thing from Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People book, which is a great book we spoke about in the last episode, is showing a genuine interest in other people. I remember listening to Steve Bartlett's podcast, The Diary CEO, and he spoke about a study done where they basically did this experiment where there'd be different people who would be meeting people, and some of them would purely ask questions about them, and if someone asked a question about themselves, they'd say, oh, anyway, what about you? And like the other ones purely spoke to themselves, and it was clear as day that the ones that asked more questions about the other person, when the other person was asked, do you like that person, they scored way higher. Yeah. And it just makes sense, doesn't it? When you when you feel like you've had a good conversation with someone, when they've basically listened and asked questions about you, like, oh, they're a nice person. Yeah. Whereas if you go to the situation and someone just speaks at you, which does happen at networking events and things, you kind of go away like, oh, they're annoying.
Well, Dan, this reminds me of I'm going to try and be as vague as I can to not say who this person was, because it's a funny story and they're probably a lovely person, but this impression that they left was negative. So we were, I was just about to say we were speaking at an event. Dan was, and I was just there.
Gary in the back.
Dan was speaking at an event, and some events there's a thing where people pay, and I feel cringy saying it. They basically pay to have time with the speakers and the brother of the speaker that hangs around with him, which we've always felt a bit uncomfortable because we like to speak to people because we just like to speak to them, so it feels strange to be like, if you want to go in this room and talk to us, I hope you got the ticket you paid a lot of money for. But yeah, anyway, some events do that. It's understandable. It's like an added value thing of you can have some private time with people that are knowledgeable in these areas. So we had one of these things, and there were 4 or 5 people that had paid to be within our presence. Oh, lucky individuals.
Sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. So and one of them basically came in and was just shouting how much she earns, basically. Like, no matter the conversation.
I turned over $750,000, and that's just me.
It's like, we were just this nice lady over here was just asking some questions about
but I turned over $750,000
marketing on Instagram.
Yeah, I used to do that, but now I'm turning over $1 million.
I was like, it's gone up $250,000 since we.
Yeah, it's grown that fast.
Like, she was just everything. She was just shouting about how much she earned, and I suppose that really does show. Like you said, when you're asking questions about other people, you walk away and think like, "Oh, what
that was a good experience."
And the other end of the scale is completely
shouting
just
your income
not caring what's going on, just telling people how good you are and how. But it was such a strange experience.
Sorry, I've just thought of another story to do with that. Will you finish with that one or not? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead. I mean, you seem very excited
just
about
made me
this.
think. Again, I've got to be very vague. I want to know if you remember this or not.
Yeah.
Do you remember that same experience where people pay to like meet you in a room or whatever? Do you remember we were at another event once, and afterwards we were in a room with these people, and like we thought it was like the back speaker room. Yeah. But then there was a few random people there.
Oh yeah, no one told us.
Right?
Yeah.
No, but we weren't told. None of the speakers were told that. There was a few random people that we were having a chat. Like, you're right. What do you do? And then Lloyd and I kind of like, I think we were well busy, and we sort of were just leaving, and it was afterwards, and we were like, we got to go. And afterwards, we realised that we weren't told, but those people were paid to be in a room with us to chat to us. And we were like, so see you later.
It wasn't even that we left. At first, we were like, rather than eat our lunch just with the speakers, we'd prefer to go out with everyone else and just chat with everyone. So we were leaving the room.
That was it, yeah.
And then obviously we realised we left, and obviously the people, they probably paid like an extra couple of £100 to sit with us, and we were like, guys, just grab some food, but I'm going to go speak to the guys that didn't pay out there. So see you later.
But we weren't told.
Yeah, we weren't. They must have been thinking, what? I mean, this is terrible. Why would you get us to pay for this? And then we basically came back to say bye. We're like, we've had a great time and speaking to everyone out there. Now we're leaving. And so they probably, just as we walked back in, thinking they were going to get some good value, probably thought, yeah.
And then after we were walking to the car, and we were so oblivious, and we walked to the car, and then on reflection, we're like, why were those random people in that room?
Like, we did see those tickets for sale, actually.
And then all the dots clicked, like those things that were said.
That was strange from the organiser not to tell us, just to kind of put the food out and walk in these 3 people.
Yeah,
and no,
in you go.
Because we were just talking normally, like, hi, you all right?
Yeah. Why are you here?
But what was strange as well, and I think why we didn't realise, is because they didn't really say much. And I would have thought if you'd paid you'd really be asking questions and... Yeah, that was very strange.
There's 3 random people in,
this
in the
is
back
nice,
room.
But I'm going to talk to the 300 out there rather than just stay in this weird back room.
Oh, God.
Yeah, very strange.
Any other?
I wanted to ask you a question about first impressions. So these days, a lot of our first impressions of people are not when we actually meet them. They're on social media and digital first impressions. So I was just thinking, like, how we're focusing on, me parking my shit car around the corner and not... Should people now be actually focusing on their social media profiles and, like, what they look like if someone Googles them as their first impressions, just as much as when I first meet someone in person.
It's that classic thing, like whenever we go to an event, and it's not loads of people because we're not that popular, but you meet at least a few people that kind of come up to you and go, Dan, Lloyd, and like talk to you as if you've met them, but they haven't, and then you come to realise that they've been watching your videos for a while, and it's that they feel like they know you already, so it's lowering the barrier to build that relationship. You've made a good impression
before you've even met them.
That's another added benefit of
that's an added benefit
of creating content and being on camera. In terms of, like, for me, the sales process, someone completely cold trying to get to know them takes X amount of time, but if they feel like they already know you, that relationship building process is fast tracked, basically.
They've already judged you and made that impression on what they've seen on the internet, and so when you actually meet them in person, they're already bought in.
And we said this the other day, we're getting like leads come in who have already qualified themselves that they want to work with us. You know, normally, like, if you get a cold lead come in, there's the whole like, do they have the need, and are we going to be a good culture fit and all this? They already come to us because they've seen everything and they've already decided they're the right fit. And it's just a case of us.
You might be listening now because people have been saying, "Oh, I listened to the podcast, I watch your stuff," and so if you are listening, I mean, please get in contact and work with us.
Well, it's interesting because this is an experiment for us, but definitely more recently, some really big opportunities have come in that we're going to be pitching for, that people have said, "Oh, I listened to you on the pod. I listened to you both on the podcast," and there's already, and we converted business last week with someone, you know who you are, who says they listen to the podcast, and
it is really cool because this is also part of our jobs now that it's hard to say jobs because we're just talking about
pissing
stuff like
about
this. But we really enjoy this, so it's lovely that we can do something we enjoy, and thank you, listeners, you guys seem to be enjoying it, and it's beneficial for our business, because I think we're kind of more keen to carry on this going because we're like, even if it's not that beneficial to the business,
we enjoy it.
It's like part of the week that we really we look forward to and we enjoy doing.
What's going to be funny is when we're like 60, there's going to be loads of videos of us when we're young doing stuff like this. How cool is that going to be? You could spend a day just watching old...
Well, but also... So Lloyd, just speaking to 60-year-old Lloyd, I'm looking into the camera for... Sorry that you're cringing so much. And if you haven't lost the weight, come on. If you're getting old and you're still this weight, then you're not going to live a long life. So... Sorry, just giving myself a pep talk. But I know how much we cringe when we look back at stuff like a year ago. So when we're 60, the cringe might have gone by then. It might just be nostalgic of like, oh, remember the days when...
But I can imagine us just sitting, having days, on a beach somewhere, just sitting, watching, listening to this.
We should do a Business Anchors meetup in 2060.
Great idea that you won't execute.
No. Great big picture idea. Won't organise that. Got 40 years to, still won't get round to it. But yeah, so first impressions. Did we talk about first impressions? Not really sure. It's been absolutely mental, this podcast. But the thing
this has been one of the most enjoyable episodes.
Well,
I just laughed so much.
There's a difference, Dan, between us enjoying it and the listeners enjoying it. I just hope there's some... that's like Venn diagram. There's something in the middle of a group of people that...
I just enjoy... when stories pop into my head, funny things that you've done, like your friends taking the piss at you and stuff. I'm sure there's more.
Good. I'll try and mention more that my friends think I dress like their nan. So yes, some of you will have been listening to us ramble on just so you can hear if you've won the Gary V book. And most of you will be disappointed because there's only one winner. But that winner of the signed Gary V book, which we haven't got with us at this table.
We should have got it.
But don't worry, it's real. Is Ashley Giles. Ashley Giles. Well done, Ashley. And I was going to say, send us your address, but I actually know where Ashley lives.
Because he's your friend.
Yeah.
So how is this not fixed?
This sounds dodgy.
I actually did watch you do the random
I took a
generator.
video. So if anyone wants proof... If you're like wondering a bit, I think these guys are trustworthy, but I just want to make sure that they're not shit people.
Yeah.
Contact me and I'll send you the video of the random name generator picking the winner.
No, you won't, because you don't do anything that you say you're going to do.
I will. Dan will. So I just wanted to read out the comment or a couple of comments.
Review, Lloyd. It's not a comment. You are so crap.
Sorry, I don't understand how the internet works. So the winning review, Ashley got very creative with using the word Gary, and he did it in a way that wasn't obvious as well. So he said, podcast keeps getting better and better. An idea for future pods. You could do a segment picking out a question from reviewers/listeners each week and discussing/answering it. For example, what's your favourite Gary Barlow song? Or what's your favourite social media platform to use?
Very creative.
Very good. And Adam Barry, I didn't really understand most of your comment, but you got Gary in there. So what an amazing podcast. If I could sum this up briefly, I'd say, Gary, go and subscribe to their channel. Oh no. I get it. I actually finally get it. I've read this so many times I didn't understand it. So, G, go and
Oh my God.
G, go and subscribe to their channel. A, always wear a suit to a book signing. R, remember your question you're supposed to be asking when you're meeting your hero. Y, you've been a comedian before. No one ever said that to you, Lloyd. Adam, I apologise. I've read that comment so many times, and
How did you not understand that?
I just thought because there were random letters between sentences. I just kind of thought, he's obviously not very.
We
good
are losing the plot, Lloyd.
He's not very good at typing, but thanks for the effort. Oh, it's a shame he didn't win now. That's quite creative. But well done, Ashley, and thank you to the other people. I know that I saw reviews from Marissa, Laura,
and the two other people that did it.
and two other people. But yeah, thank you very much, and sorry you didn't win this time. So to wrap up this epic two-parter, which has been a roller coaster ride, but we've enjoyed it. I hope you have too. We're going to have a bit of a discussion. Don't forget, this is all about people. You might have forgotten because it went off on so many weird tangents. But the whole kind of we're hiring at the moment, and we've been really thinking more about getting the right people in the business, not just that have the skills needed, but that kind of fit into our culture. And I feel like this whole culture in a business
buzzword.
Like 5 years ago, I don't feel like it was a thing. Like if you said, oh yeah, we really got to get someone that fits into our culture, people would have gone, what do you mean?
Yeah.
But now it's a massive thing of like when you're hiring, you're kind of working out, okay, do they have the skills needed and everything, and now are they a good culture fit? And it's just a standard thing. So
what is culture?
Yeah, like in a business context, I guess that's the question. I'm even thinking it, but I'm trying to think what sums that whole idea up.
I had a really interesting conversation with someone about culture that I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
I keep bringing up Agencynomics. They've got a podcast called Agency Phonics where they get agency owners on, really successful agency owners. Shout out to Nick Redding from Redico. I listened to a podcast with him on, and I reached out to him and actually
was that the Agency Phonics podcast?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
And I can't remember what episode it was, but it's really interesting. Redico is another agency based in Rochester, I think.
In Kent, yeah.
I think they're like 20 or 30 or 40 people. I can't remember exactly, but they've won Best Place to Work for like a couple of years in a row. And they have, what's really interesting about them is they have people choose their own hours. They've got all of these weird and wonderful sort of culture things where people can choose their own hours, come in as much as they want, have as much holiday as they want. And it's just a really interesting way of finding out how the different way of running an agency and a business. And one of the things that he really said to me, which was really interesting, was something around like culture isn't about beanbags and free food, or the traditional culture things like, at Facebook you get free unlimited food and an ice cream man there, and that's not culture.
Yeah, I kind of feel like those two things have kind of cropped up at the same time, but actually we're never the same thing. So just as like Google and Facebook and stuff we're becoming really not like the normal workplace and having table tennis tables and free beer, at the same time this culture question thing was coming up, and people kind of lumped them together. But like you said, that isn't the being able to sit on a beanbag isn't anything to do with the culture.
He said he did say that from their perspective, culture is all about shaping your career or the employee's career around their life. So like he said, there's people with kids and stuff, and they can drop their kids off at school and pick them up, and work and have time off in the day, and then some people want to work in the evening because that's the best time they work. And it's rather than telling people how they should work, they've empowered their employees to decide that for themselves, and it's worked really well.
Because I do think in life, in working life in the past and mostly in the present, most employers are still like this. A big stressful part of people's lives is kind of like, oh yeah, I've got work, but I've got to work out childcare because I can't quite get to school to pick them up in time, so I'm going to have to get someone to pick them up. And it's kind of like, it's this additional stress in every single day of your working life that in reality doesn't have to be there, and could, I say quite simply, I don't think it's simple, because in a business you have to work out how these things work, but it can be done to mean that those little stresses in people's lives are just completely eradicated.
And we're definitely, we're very much at the beginning of our journey of trying to build a good culture and a good place to work. But we've spoken before, and we're very much with the idea that if one of our teams said, every Thursday between 2 and 4, I really want to do this thing. Can I do it? Then we'd figure it out and make it work, because that thing is what they need to, or if they've got kids and they needed to drop them off, pick them up, we'd figure out, rather than saying, no, you've got to come to work 9 to 5. We've kind of spoken about flexible working to an extent, but they've gone the whole extreme of literally like, you decide when you come in or not, which is pretty mental.
I think what we analyse in our own business, Dan, I think what we need to put in place to be able to be as flexible as we want to be, we need to really be clear on people's goals and what they need to achieve.
So it's the output, not the time you put in. Because
I think at the moment we want to be flexible. So if someone said to us, like you said, or even something different, like, oh, there's this Thursday where can I leave at 3 to go and do this thing? Like,
we should be able to say,
I would like to not have to say, oh yeah, take 2 hours holiday. I'd like to be able to kind of say, oh yeah, if you've got everything done and you're going to hit all your targets and you've got all the stuff done that we've outlined, go whenever you want. Like, if it makes sense for you.
I think you're right. We just need to get better at, even for ourselves and for our teams, setting out expectations of,
because I think at the moment we'd want to have all those flexibilities,
but we don't have
but it would have a detriment to our business, because we haven't got to the point where we've been clear enough in what we want our team to achieve, or even ourselves. So I think that's, as we grow, I think that's something we need to make sure we put in place to be able to do that. Just analysis of where we are with that
culture. And one more thing, I actually just thought, the whole Facebook free food and bean bags. I remember listening to something, reading a book where it said about, it's actually very clever because Google offer free breakfasts and dinners at a certain time. And what that actually does is it gets their team in work earlier and later. So if you want a free meal, it's here until 8:30 in the morning, so you need to come in, and then
also,
they're there.
Oh, you can, free breakfast, but you're having breakfast with your colleagues, so you're going to be talking
about
work and which is
clever,
valuable for them. And I think, like, fair enough, because it still is a choice. You can be there and it's beneficial to them, so they've been clever and thought, well, let's put this breakfast on because it's beneficial to our business. But I think with this kind of, the thing we're saying isn't culture of bean bags, which is funny because we've got 2 massive bean bags in it. I think there's a lot of things that are almost like it's to trick people into thinking
it's a good culture.
Oh, it's a great place to work. Like, in reality, we bought these bean bags because we wanted them. But if you're thinking, oh, they do have bean bags and a dartboard,
bean bags aren't that great,
which we do, it's kind of like, you got to think, actually, how often will I sit on the bean bag? Okay, once a month. Am I making a decision to take that job because I can sit on a beanbag once a month?
We go in so much detail about our beanbags.
No, but I think a lot of these people now are putting out all these perks. And, there's even businesses with these weird meeting rooms. Like, we're very good friends with a business that has a ball pit meeting room.
Yeah,
and I think
pretty cool.
They've had it for a long time, so I think it must be beneficial to them. But I would argue, no offence, guys, because I think you're all brilliant. I would argue that something like that, it might not be that beneficial for your employees.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be interested
you say that, social chain.
I guess I'm not talking about exactly that, but there are elements of this that actually sound exciting.
So, social chain.
Like having a slide in your office to go down a floor. Is that actually...
Well, social chain... when they first got their first level of investment, they invested like 20 grand on a slide for the office. And Steve Bartlett, the founder, talks about the amount of press they generated and PR from installing that slide is worth 100 times what the slide's worth. So even like this ball pit from another agency we know, like the amount of people that talk about the ball pit probably makes it worthwhile having a ball pit because you're the company with the ball pit. You know, what could we have here, Lloyd? We could make something.
Yeah, you've convinced me. Well, let's just
pretend. Have a ball pit.
Let's just pretend there is.
Oh, there's ball pits everywhere.
We've got a hole in the floor with a fireman's pole.
Yep.
So if you want to work here, slide down the pole.
Yeah. Moving on.
Anyway. Moving on. But yeah, okay. I think you've convinced me there, Dan. Actually, so I was looking at it, thinking, actually, is there a benefit? But to the business as a whole, I know.
I think we should do something weird here. We were going to get like a hanging.
We just want that monkey
chair. Oh, monkey.
That's
if you've got any suggestions for cool things we can have for our office.
Just to clarify, guys, we weren't going to get a real monkey in the office.
I
just realised we didn't clarify that. It was like this little statue hanging thing. Okay. So
cool.
Culture, interesting conversation. I said in part 1, guys, but if you do want to get your hands on a free agency nomics book, then give us a review with the word Ramones or something like that. Spell it how you want, like I said. Show us your Ramones, and we'll send up to 5 of you an agency nomics book if you want it. Don't just review it with that word if you don't really want the book, because then it just costs us money and you don't really get anything good. But
bye.
Oh, terrible ending.